guys, how are you today? Judy Haddad here, owner of Orange Purple Passions, my healing LLC, and founder and executive director of 5 Purple Oranges, my charity. This is another installment in Hit by a Truck, which is my path through trauma into faith and purpose, the story of the loss of my child. So I'm just gonna briefly touch on, hope you guys can hear me okay. I'm gonna briefly touch on the beginnings of my healing journey and what it took to get my body back. So probably covered some of this already, sorry if I have. When we were hit, I had ribs on both sides broken, vertebrae in my back broken, but the biggest breaks were my pelvis. So I had like this whole side of my pelvis was shattered. And then on my right side, it was the part of the pelvis that's near the pubis bone. And I am telling you, they must have drawn me pictures like 1,000 times in the hospital and told me 1,000,000 times where the breaks were. I don't know if I didn't get it or if I didn't understand. So I'm so worried you're not seeing me, but maybe you're not hearing me if I scooch back. In the hospital, so crash was on a Friday. Alon was pronounced on Monday, right? No, Alon was pronounced on a Sunday. His body was taken away to harvest on the Tuesday. That Wednesday is when I had my surgery. In the meantime, they couldn't do much with me. So I had to work on my lungs because they were, obviously worried about that. I did a cognitive test at some point. I think that was after they sent psychologists to talk to me, or psychiatrists, who knows, because not only the trauma to my body, but losing my child, they wanted to make sure I wasn't going to kill myself, I believe is where we were. They had provided me with any combination of drugs to get me to a level that was tolerable. And I was not good. I did not take them that often. I couldn't do anything. Like, I literally couldn't move my body. So when they moved me to wash me or something, it was always on my right side, because that break in the pelvis wasn't gonna disrupt any other bodily functions. And they would move me to my right side, but the ribs on that side were pretty well broken. And so that was incredibly painful, but I could not move to my left side. And that meant a lot to me throughout my recovery, because my left side was the side that Alon was sort of attached to. So whenever he wanted to sit next to me, it was always on my left side. When I carried him as a baby, it was always on my left side. I mean, that was obviously close to my heart. I am right-handed, but that's how we did things. So I would carry him on my left side. He would snuggle with me on my left side. If he ever came to sleep with me, it was on my left side. Like sitting at a restaurant, always on my left side. At home, he would move his chair always to my left. So always to my left, and it was just psychologically, I think that had an effect on me, that I could not now move. My left side was so demolished. I can feel it now. Like, this is so weird. I can feel it that I'm not moving my left side now. It's okay. It's crazy what your brain can do to your body. So on the 20th, I had my surgery. It was supposed to be, I think, about 5 hours, and I think it lasted more than 8. I could be wrong. I know my mom was a little flipped out because no one came to talk to her. When I was my doctor, I never really saw my doctor, but like maybe twice. The surgeon, maybe twice. The resident, there was Dr. Sam, don't even know what his last name was, came in to see me every day. And he would, I mean, it was at University of Wisconsin in Madison, so it's a teaching hospital. So a lot of people came to see me on a daily basis. But he would like wiggle my toes on my left leg, I'm sure looking for nerve damage. And I would say to him like, and maybe sometimes I wouldn't, like I couldn't feel my third toe or my middle toe or whatever. I couldn't feel my middle toe. I still have weird nerve things in that toe. Like I can't, if I do certain things, I can start feel the numbness rise from my toes up to my leg. It's very strange. But he would come in, make sure I'm like not paralyzed. And as I said, I think they were so worried about that break, but they knew I had to take care of Alon, grieve for Alon. They wanted me stable in a lot of ways. But I think they were kind of a little concerned that I was waiting that long for surgery, but also their surgery schedule was crazy. So I found out afterwards that no one really works on pelvises. Like it's very rare to even break your pelvis. It's usually some amazing amount of force, or you have some kind of issue like some disease where it's so fragile it can shatter. But it's not a normal thing, not for a woman of my age. So they did, so that surgeon I had there is actually, I believe, taught the surgeon I ended up having in Chicago. So it's like a small group of orthopedic surgeons that will work on the pelvis. So when they opened me up, they had to put me on my right side. Like I had to lie on my right side the whole time in the surgery. And when I woke up, holy crap, I was so sore. I was also completely out of it and thought that my nurse was my doctor because they were both bald men. I don't know. And my mom was freaked out, but things started improving after that. So what they had done is they put like a screw. Well, it was weird. I have like a hole in my butt where I think that's where I don't think I have anything there. That was just like a random scar from the way they had to move my body. And I guess the reason the surgery took so long is they could not find a way to make it work. So they put in a plate, they sort of put in a plate and some screws, fixed this side so it was stable in this side. They decided we're not gonna fix it. Well, good luck, see what happens. And now as I'm thinking about it, it's weird to me that both sides were broken, and I'm trying to think, well, now which side did I have to use the crutches for? Isn't that strange? So now as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I think it was my fixed side I was able to put weight on, but that's not true. It was my broken side that I had to put the weight on. So I had two very uneven legs and both broken and both healing. But post-surgery, I had a hard time with meds in a different way. I was not able to keep food down. I was not able to keep meds down, and that was a big thing. And finally, I think we ended up with like Valium and Tylenol and like low-level morphine. And my mom was back up with me now at this point, and would bring me food from outside sources, and I was able to eat that, and I ate a little hospital food too. When they decided to release me, it was going to a rehab facility, and we found one that is, really well known in Chicago. And I don't know what led me to decide that wasn't the right choice for me, but something, I think as I started feeling stronger physically, I started to want to actually do things by this point. So the lead investigator on the scene came to the hospital room and brought some of my stuff. So now I had my glasses. I think I'd been wearing my contacts this whole time, like with nothing, like just kept them in. Brought my glasses, so I was able to take out my contacts, wash my contacts. I don't know how my glasses survived, like the case was all mangled. I don't know that he brought me anything else, but that was like the start of me trying to like take care of me. So I love how I was gonna bring my water and then forget it. So I'm gonna learn how to speak from the diaphragm. I started taking care of myself. I think I was able to put something over the bandage and actually take a shower, which is, you know, not much because you're sitting on the thing. Oh, I think I was able to wipe myself for the first time or something. I don't know. So this is gonna be TMI, but it's part of the story. The crash, the trauma to my body kicked me into what we thought at the time was early menopause. It wasn't, but I got my period and I couldn't keep any food down at first. So like these poor nurses were wiping up poop and blood all the time. And then I couldn't poop, and that made me insane. And we knew it was the meds. And so I think that's why we got in the Valium to try and relax that track. But also, you know, when you're taking the opioids, they screw up that whole thing anyway, and I wasn't eating. And so then I got like the feeling of it, like there's a sick feeling of where you can feel like stuff building up in your system, and that made me insane. Like I tried to cleanse about a year or 2 years ago, and I couldn't do it because that feeling came back and it was making me insane. Like I need to poop, I need to poop. So they were trying everything to get me to poop, and they were gonna have to give me an enema, and I was like, oh my God, I can't. You're already like all up in my business all the time. It's overwhelming. I was really never left alone because they were constantly taking me to x-rays or like blood drawn at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And then I had the lung people, the respiratory people come and make me breathe. And then they started doing other things. So I was never really left alone. And, but something about the surgery, because now I wasn't in excruciating pain. I was just in major pain, I guess. I felt like, oh, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna go home. And the tests to go home were to, I think, be able to manage stairs. So I worked really hard. They thought I was gonna do a walker. I ended up with crutches. I found out later they were probably the wrong size crutches, but that's okay. So got rid of the walker, didn't need a wheelchair. I got into crutches. I wasn't allowed to put any weight on my leg, my left side at all. I would just have to practice like swinging it and walking on the right side. There's nothing they're putting on there. I just have to be careful that I don't put any weight in it. I had to learn how to get in and out of bed. My mom was real helpful with that. Like for my bed at home, she got me a topper and like an inclined pillow, so I was able to sit up in bed, like in a hospital room. We had someone come in and install a shower chair for me and things like that, so railings for the toilet. It's funny, you don't realize how much you take for granted until you don't have use of a lot of things. Now I think I couldn't wipe my butt. They had to give me a little tool. Erin's gonna, if she watches this, she's gonna laugh about this. I have an OT friend that we talk about these things, but they had to give me a little tool to try and wipe my butt. Just all these little things that you don't think of when you're going back to your house. And I learned real quick more things we should have thought about when I was returned home. So I was released, I'm sorry I didn't write it down. I want to say I was released on the 28th of August. And I was released home with the caveat that someone would be here to take care of me. Well, I love my mom. We're very different people. When she's had too much, she shuts down. She needs to be alone. And I don't hold that against her. I can be the same way, but I needed to have people around me. It was scary. I was scared. I was scared to be home alone. A lot of it was because I didn't know how I was going to react emotionally. I had the cat I was going to have to somehow take care of. I had stairs. I was worried. So she did not stay with me the first night. We had a drive home where I was sitting on like 15 million pillows. They had given me, when I left the hospital, they were laughing because like there was the whole time I was staying in the trauma floor, there was a series of men in the room next door that you could hear them crying all night and bitching and moaning for pain pills and what have you. And the nurses would be like, you're in far worse shape, and we never hear a peep out of you. And so when I left, they wanted to give me OxyContin, and I think they did give me a prescription for OxyContin, and I'm like, I'm not taking that. I haven't taken it the whole time I'm here. I know how dangerous that is. I don't want to take it. So I was given like a real low dose of morphine, and then stuff for pooping, and aspirin for the blood thinning, and I had to take blood thinning, the shots that you have to give yourself. So I had a lot of stuff. I was loaded up. So we got that at the hospital pharmacy, and then my mom drove me home. It's about 3 hours drive. The way we go, it's about 3 hours drive. And we stopped at a Culver's, and it was just like the saddest effing thing. I had like hospital socks on, no shoes. Well, I don't know how I got, so I'm thinking somehow, at one point my mom meant to meet the cops to pick up some of my stuff. And in that stuff were some pajama pants-ish. They're like yoga pants. I wore as pajama pants. So I was able to have those. I don't know what else I was wearing. My clothes, they cut off my clothes. They sent me home with my clothes. We had a lawn, had all my plants that everybody kept sending me. Milan was packed in a box, his urn was packed in a box, so we put him someplace where I could, not in the trunk. I was like, I don't want my baby in the trunk. And then we had, my mom had bought some pillows to help me for the ride, and I think I kept them for here as well. And then we had, the cops must have given, and at the hospital. So I was given Alon's clothes, and his shoes were in great shape, and mine were non-existent because we had just been hiking. I had switched from my hiking boots to my flip-flops. I remember when I was a teenager and I was babysitting for this couple, and I always saw him drive barefoot, and I always thought, that's the stupidest thing. Why are you driving barefoot? Like, what happens if? Well, now I know what happens if you wear flip-flops. With the impact of the crash, they went flying. I think I actually received them later. Not in great shape, but so I had like socks of some kind, hospital socks I believe we stocked up on, and I was able to go home with Alon's shoes on my feet. By that point, I think he was a full size, bigger, almost 10, and just giant feet. Always had giant feet. So I wore his shoes home. I get here and I really have no idea how to take care of myself. So when you're in the hospital and you need a drink of water, you can ring a bell. I'm home, my water's downstairs, I'm upstairs in my bed. That's a long trip, and at night. And that first night, this is not to make my mom feel bad. She has since apologized. I wish she had not left me alone. I wish I had had somebody. So soon after, though, I had my older brother came to help me out. He stayed with me. I had a lot of visitors, and then I want to say acquaintance. I mean, I love the woman, but it's like we had never really formed a friendship, but her son and my son were in the same class for a couple years at the Montessori school, and she started a meal train because she was a cancer survivor and knew how important it would be for me to have rides and visits and food, and God bless her. So I was home alone. My house was very much different than you see it now. We couldn't keep up with the house, and it wasn't in a state that there were things Alon and I had wanted to do the house, and we just didn't have the money, and it was just a mess. We had crap everywhere. It was like, it's the type of house that when I walk into, if it's not mine, I feel anxious, like the chaos of it. That's the way I felt walking back into my house, especially. It felt very chaotic and dirty, and I felt annoyed having people over, and the furniture wasn't even my furniture. It was like hand-me-down furniture, and I had home health care come and home physical PT, and I don't remember who it was now, but I will tell you, I will never ever use them again. And the worst thing I think that came out of that, well, besides the fact that they helped me, not at all. I think it was just to check the boxes with my healthcare, because I got nothing out of it, nothing of value. But the worst thing that came out of that is that I was talked into staying on the Norco a little bit longer than I should have. So by now I'm not on morphine anymore. I'm on Norco. I'm pretty sure I've seen my orthopedic surgeon down here in Chicago. Again, the only one who does it. So he's at Northwestern Memorial, another teaching hospital for, Northwestern University. And he wants me off the Norco, or he wants me to start pulling back. I've never done, by this point, I had only smoked pot 3 times, and in my later years, as a kid, I had, all my friends were high all the time, and I never touched it. And all my friends did coke, and I never touched it. And all my friends drank, and I wasn't a drinker. So I was not aware of what my body would do on the drugs. Even the amount of caffeine I drink now makes me high. I'm that sensitive. I didn't up to that point ever do a lot of have any instances where I would need any sort of drugs. I think I had some codeine from wisdom teeth being pulled 20 years ago or something. So I hadn't had that experience, and so on the Norco, I was still feeling a lot of pain, but it was manageable, and I got to the point where I was comfortable, and I'm okay. And then when I did try to hold off, and maybe, you know what, I'm probably messing this up. I think it was the morphine. When I tried to pull back from the morphine to then move to the Norco, I guess, which is what codeine, and I'm not even sure what's in there. I didn't understand the withdrawal symptoms. So I was on such a low level of it, but I had been on it long enough that I was all of a sudden I pulled back. I'm holy crap, I'm feeling really bad. Now I'm feeling extremely cold and really in a lot of pain, and a different kind of pain. And the nurse didn't bother to say, hey, keep at it. That's probably a sign of, withdrawal. And I wish someone had said that to me. I would have made it I would have forced myself to go another day. I did not know enough to know that that's what I was going through. So to me now, I can look back and say, oh, that was totally withdrawal, because I don't think I needed what I was taking. Even at that time, I didn't want to take a lot of drugs. So I remember she's when she gave me permission to get back on it, I'm oh, okay, maybe I'm just not ready. And then my orthopedist was the one who was get off the Norco as I was progressing with physical therapy. So that was hard for me. I could tell though, when I took it where I didn't need it, I could tell instead of feeling just normal, I could tell I was feeling a little high. So I understood that, and I think it was a lot of fear. I think it was fear because I was in just constant pain. I think it was fear, okay, when I take this, when I get off this, not only am I going to be in the constant pain, I'm going to have to face what I'm afraid to face, which is the absence of my child. I know that's what was going through my mind. So I started physical therapy soon after I realized home healthcare was crap. I found a physical therapist. People were so generous from the meal train to drive me to and from therapy. And I had this great therapist, and she told me later, she was oh my God, when I saw it was gonna be the pelvis, I just thought you were some old lady and it was a menopausal issue. I'm no. So when she heard my story, I think it made it really dramatic for her. But she was amazing, and one of the things that she was so helpful is I had been dizzy the whole time. The whole time I was in the hospital, I kept talking to people. I had vertigo. I didn't know if it was the meds or what I had been through, or because I was lying down and then I would have to get up. I didn't know, I found out later it was BPPV, which I don't know what that stands for, but it's when the crystals get knocked loose in your inner ear. And luckily enough for me, once that happens one time, it happens again. Like, you're not immune from it anymore. Like, it happens out of the blue. Woohoo! But she was the only person, my physical therapist was the only person to figure that out, that that's what was going on, and she helped me. And I thought I was going to throw up 15 million times when she did help me. But it was like, oh my God, like now I don't have this fear that I'm going to have to learn how to drive again and all this stuff, like, because now I'm not feeling dizzy. Like, just the thought of getting in a car where I feel sick just because I'm dizzy and I'm in a car, and should I be driving a car, and you know, that kind of stuff. So that was amazing. And she helped me get my balance back and my strength back and my sense of humor, and I started feeling more like myself. And the final piece was when I did quit my job, which will be in a different episode. When I did quit my job, and the release of the stress that I was holding on to over that and how I was being treated, that made a huge difference. So I think I'm going to end there. And there's a lot more healing involved. I had to have another surgery that I'd like to discuss. I had to do a lot of emotional healing. I did have a way back to my physical body, and a lot of it had involved the same things I do now, but I had to also understand that emotional healing was involved. So I think this is a good place for me. Thanks for watching.